Hi everybody, welcome to the Brand Sisters. I'm Alexis.
I'm Claire.
And we're from Animella Agency, and we help take your brand from unseen
to unforgettable.
We did not plan that. I liked comboing it like that together. All right, so today I'm doing a little bit of a follow-up to a podcast that we did recently, which was three signs it might be time to reassess your values. Mm-hmm. And you can check that podcast out if you haven't listened to that one already. But that's where I shared an evolution that I've been going through this past year, where I was really feeling like things were off, and how I came to the realization that things were off, and realizing that I wanted to get like my values kind of back on track. Mm-hmm. I'm making that sound super dramatic, like things were really off for me, but it was like more of a sense, like a feeling, just in case I don't give the wrong impression. So it was really interesting because after that realization, I really just sat with that for a really long time and just kind of waited. I don't really know how else to say that. Like, I didn't try to be actionable and like fix things, or like I really just like sat with it and was present and waited for I don't know how to explain that other than I just sat with it. And that doesn't mean that I wasn't working. Like, it's not like I just like let everything go, but I realized like I know that I want to make some changes, and I'm not sure what those are or how to do that. So as I kind of sat with that, I something came to me, and I decided to work on some goal planning, some planning for my business and our business, but to have them be value-based goals as opposed to profit-based goals. So in that podcast, I had shared about how everything was, for me, was like making X amount of money, booking this many clients, which was fine. And I think that as an underachiever most of my life, it was very exciting to do that and be able to do that. But that's when like things got off for me. And I kind of had this idea, like, what if I set goals, and they are business goals, that have them to be able to reach a specific value as opposed to a monetary value.
I love that.
So I'm going to share what I did, and I also put together a free worksheet.
Nice.
I mean, I did the worksheet for myself, so might as well like share it with anybody else that wants it. So that's available in the blog post. All right. So here's the first thing that I did. I listed the value that I wanted to achieve. For example, one of them was, I don't want to feel like I'm always working, and I want to be present with my family. I don't want to be rushed at kid-focused activities, and I don't want to be stressed to get through a family activity because I have too much work to do. So I got like very specific on what I wanted to have and feel. So it wasn't just like anyway, I don't know what anybody else would do, but I wanted to get really specific on like the value. I also had a value focused like on finances. Like, I'm not saying this is about like your business, right? But my finance one was kind of what I wanted as an experience in my life, and what I wanted as opposed to just like, I want to make $10K a month or something. I'm not saying that was my goal, but I just mean I really wanted to like list what I wanted to feel, to experience, and to have based on that value. The second thing I did then is I described what that value would look like in my life. And in case you were wondering what this is, it's just a small color-coded flow chart that I put together.
Classic. Yeah.
I knew you were going to laugh at me. I don't care. I wanted to show you anyways. Because I need to see things like laid out like that before I put it into a spreadsheet. But so, for example, if I was to take that first one, like, I don't want to feel like I'm always working, be present. The example of what that would feel like and look like in my life was that I wanted to have a balance of Saturdays that I don't work. I don't mind working some Saturdays. A lot of times that's better for my clients because they work a traditional work week. So the Saturday is often when I can photo shoot. So I wanted to have a balance of Saturdays that I don't work. I never want to work on Sundays and always have that day be devoted to my family. That's a value I've always had, but I wanted to just reaffirm that. I don't want to do late evening jobs during the week. I really don't like being away in the evening. It never feels right to me. So I want to avoid doing any photo shoots that go into the evening. I also don't want to book shoots on the days that the girls have activities. So like there's certain standard days, like horseback riding on this day.
Tennis.
Yeah, my kids are, that's 40. Which is fine, but there's not that many activities. But there's some. So be sure that like I don't book shoots on those days, because what happens then is I have to arrange like different rides, and I'm like, I get stressed about that.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure. So I took that tangible, like I want to feel present and available and not rushed, and like, well, what do I need to do to make sure that that happens? So that second step is describing what that value would actually look like in my daily life. And then the third step, indicated here in purple, this was actually really important, because this is like down to kind of like the nitty gritty part, which is what profit level do I need to be at to make those goals happen? So again, this is not excluding money from this and like thinking that everything is going to work out. Like that's not the way I function. But like, for example, I'm going to just speak specifically for the photography side of my business. My business is made up of very different service combinations, which cost different things, right? So like let's just say I have 3 different service tiers that cost different amounts. So I created various combinations in the purple here, and what that would look like, and if that fit in with the values that I wanted to achieve. So let's say I took 2 at this level, 5 at this level, 1 here. What would that profit look like? And I like considered it like everything. Like you obviously need to consider like taxes and expenses and all that kind of stuff. How many hours would that be? Does that work with my set of values? Well, like this one looks like it's going to be, I'd probably have to take more Saturdays. What's a different combination I could try? And so I really just laid everything out and thought about which combination would be like ideal to meet the values that I wanted. After that, I excluded some of like the combinations that would not fit my values. So I was left with like a few different combinations that would probably be the best for me. Then from there, that's when you backtrack and market to my best preferred combination. So that's when I'm like, after going through my scenarios, I decided, okay, so like this service, I need to market this more, because this really helps me make sure that I can not take as many Saturdays or whatever. And like, I really want to make sure that I'm marketing for quarterly content club clients, because that makes sure that, you know, I can take these weekdays off, but these not. And so it was really great, because like I already know my services. I'm not changing. This is not about changing my service suite. It was figuring out how to like market, network, like through email marketing, anything else that I need to promote the specific services that help me achieve my values. So my work feels like it's blessing my life, not detracting from the life that I want to have.
I think that's amazing. That makes me think about, I feel like there was a time when vision boards became really popular.
Yes.
And I remember several years ago when my husband and I had started his alternative healthcare practice, I created a vision board. I tried to get him to do it. He wasn't super interested.
Did you do like magazines and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not so much magazines, but it was more like, you know, I like got cool looking paper and more like wrote affirmations and stuff. But I remember a lot of mine initially were more, I don't know. Well, the point was that when I had Nick, my husband, look at it, especially when it came to financial stuff, because I think this is probably the case for a lot of people, that the word even finance can conjure up a lot of maybe negative and uncomfortable feelings, and in particular feelings of like inadequacy and, you know, desire and, you know, all these kinds of things that I think could, you know, make it difficult to have a healthy relationship with money. And I remember I was trying to come up with like a good affirmation for financial success. Like I had laid out like, this is how much I'd like to make a month, but I wanted something more like that, you know, something that I could actually, my soul could like aspire to, you know, so that it could all be congruent and in integrity with each other, because I know for you, and I'm sure for a lot of people, just having like shallow goals often don't actually create great success.
Well, that's the problem that I was in. Remember before, it's like I had shallow goals. I didn't realize that they were shallow until I started feeling hollow.
Exactly. And I remember Nick was like, you should put, because he is very, this is just so him, but he said, I am free to be generous. And that was like it was a kind of a pivotal switch for me, because for me, money has always been something that you save, you know, like you like almost hoard, you know, because coming from a place of lack. But it was really cool to kind of have that be switched to where like money is not something that like I hold on to. It's something that I want to be able to be generous with. And in order to be generous, you have to have it in abundance, right? So it was like a positive spin on coming from a different place when it came to money. So I feel like that, maybe going off track a little bit, but I like the idea of having your goals be so much more focused on you need the practical side in there, or else, you know, what are they even? But having them incorporate like all the aspects of us as a human, you know, having that like spirit aspect to it and that soul aspect that like really gives it meat.
But it's so much different. Like what you're talking about is exactly what this is about. But it's so much different than starting with like the financial profit sales goal and then at about like that dictates the kind of life. So like once I get this much money, then I can spend more time with my children. Once I make $10K a month, then I can take a weekend off with them, right? But if you flip it, then you make sure that you are living like congruent with like your soul and your spirit and your values always. And it's not, and then it makes the money part of it not dirty. I mean, and I'm not, again, obviously there's people that feel very differently than we do about this. I just know from experience now that when I did this the other way around, it like sucked my soul dry. Like it didn't matter how much money I was making, I just like did not feel aligned. And switching to like value based does not mean that I'm not making money. Like I'm making, you know, things are working out great. It's just that the focus is the value that I want, like my life values, not like the finance and the profit.
It's the framework, right? It's like the frame in which you put it and like the mindset with which you have, because that ultimately determines way more than we think. And if we are starting with that more, because ultimately if we are talking about like I want to make this amount of money, it's really hard not to come from a place of either at least just desire, you know, and like that's not really a place to live from anyway, you know, like that. Then we're always, if there's desire, that means there's lack, you know, and that means that there's,
I love that.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, that's really, I hadn't thought about that, but that's really beautiful.
No, good. I'm glad. That's not, So I feel like that then if you know, switch it the other way, which again, I've learned so much from Nick on that, you know, that he is so much more, he functions so much more from the idea of like abundance, you know, that I feel like it really does, it changed for me my relationship with money, you know, so that, but I think that could be, I think this could be this framework can be put to so many different aspects of your life. It's not just about, you know, what people want to make or whatever, but I think that it really could be used that if you're starting with your values and you're starting with what you want to fill your life with, you know, like the love and connection and, you know, all those things that are fulfilling, and everything else then follows, like then everything is in right order and you're just going to be more peaceful anyway. And also, sorry. The other thing too is I think that I feel like there's so many different sayings about this, but whatever we prize and hold as our God in essence, you know, that ends up getting majority of our energy, right? And so if all of our energy is going towards like I'm going to make 10K a month, then that becomes our God.
That's
you know?
so true.
And then I feel like everybody knows that then that leads to just an unfulfilling life. So
I like the word that's not a new or fancy word, but that just is with doing this and with like just where life has been after that awakening for me has just been alignment. Because I feel like when when my priorities are right, like when my, I don't want to say God again, because that's not going to be the right, then I'm like actually misusing that. When my priorities and my values are at the core of my life, everything that I'm doing is then towards that, like what you were just saying, but the opposite, right?
Yeah.
And when you're in that space, I feel so aligned. Like I feel like emotionally, I feel the best that I've felt, like physically, spiritually, business-wise, like all of those things are like, oh, these have clicked because I've switched the framework.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Great. Well, you can read the full blog post. You can get my value-based worksheet on our blog. You can follow us on YouTube, podcast. You can subscribe to both of those things. You can check us out on Pinterest and Instagram, and we will see you next time. Bye.